first item is the special events ordinance that Brandy's been working on. You want to begin the discussion?
Yeah, so let me see. So if I remember correctly, the changes that were made to the ordinance from the last time that the committee had met was that originally it was 60 days that an application could be filed with the clerk, and we moved that to not less than 90 days. And then there was an option to, let me find that real quick. And in that, it's my understanding that they wanted to not only extend it to 90 days, but give the opportunity to, if they came in less than, I can't remember if it was 30 or 60 days, then it was considered an expedited review. So 30 days. So it's on the final version, oh, these are my page numbers, but it's the visible page 3, section 3. Second paragraph on page 3. Basically, it says an application for a special event permit shall be filed with the clerk's office no less than 90 days, calendar days, or no more than 1 year before the event. If the event is less than 90 calendar days, but at least more than 30 days of the event, and there are no road closures, the city can expedite the application with an additional administrative processing fee of $50. So that was added in there. And then, I'm backtracking, I think, but let me see where that's on page. Let's see here. It's up there. And then the fee was changed from 75.
Yeah, we have the fee at 50.
Yeah, it was previously 75, so it was asked to be brought down to 50, which I see there's a typo there. That should be 50, because we probably have it in a couple places. The other change had to do with the legacy portion of it. Let's see where that's at. There's the $50 application fee. So following on page 4, processing the application. So on the page 4, under the first section of the 050A and B. So if an event was held in the same location in the same time frame from the immediate previous year, the previous event organizer will be allowed to hold their event first and must notify the city clerk's office by February 1st of each year. If the event organizer will not be holding the event or has not notified the city clerk's office, then after February 1st of any year, it will be available based on a first come, first served basis. So I think that was, if I understood it correct, the direction of the committee to allow the legacy event holders to give them till February 1st, give them 30 days to get their application or at least notify the clerk's office that they plan on having that event.
Some questions I have. Some are just typos. Under the definitions, I would put the definitions in alphabetical order. I find
It should be, okay, yeah, it was not changed here, and it should be in alphabetical order.
And then under the definition of special events, it says special event means any organized formation of an activity proposed to occur that affects the public's ordinary use of public parks and right-of-ways. You've got an extra comment in there. Including but not limited to runs, street dances, block parties, and parades. I'm wondering, most of our events are not runs or street dances or block parties. I was just wondering if we needed some generic that would cover the Seagulls contest or the cruise, the car shows, or is that covered in the first part of the definition?
It's covered in the first
part
because
of
it's
the
an organized activity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have under the application under J, we have if there's going to be alcoholic beverages served on the city property, you must provide a permit at the time of application.
And I believe it's consistent with, they're supposed to, Washington State Liquor Control Board submit their application to them 90 days before the event.
Okay, and so I really don't have a problem with that. My question is, this February 1st time that we have, is that just for like the seagull calling contest to call you and say,
Yes.
we're going to have it, but they're not going to fill their
Yeah,
application?
it says
out
notified, so they have to notify me by February 1st, but they still have to apply and put their application in 90 days before their
So
event.
I
Yes.
guess my concern was the application by February 1st, and that's not the case.
So, let me just double check here.
Do you want notified in writing, or they just call you?
It doesn't matter, because either way, if they phone call me, I'll send them an email confirming that I
Okay.
received their call. So, I mean, it's gonna be documented. Let's see, application not listed nowhere, that's expedited. Is an event held at the same location. Allowed to hold their event, must notify the city clerk's office by, and if the event, well, yeah, so they just have to notify.
just have to notify.
No application needs to be
Okay.
submitted. Yeah, because most February, March, April, May, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
City Calling's gonna have it around that time
Time
anyways.
anyway.
But, you know, if the February 8th is the 90 days, then they need to at least give me a,
And this is, again, just a typo, and I'm not sure whether I'm misreading it. It's under standards of issuance. The city clerk or designee shall issue special event permit as provided herein upon certification form. I think it should be from. And then you caught the 75 under two.
Yep.
Okay. And then if you go down to the section that, under city assistance, and we go down to 2, fire protection, last sentence, it says only state certified licensed professional fire and emergency medical personnel should be used for this purpose, preferably the Seminole
Oh.
County Fire Department. So maybe that should be
South Kids at Fire and Rescue.
something other than that. Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know if they would come out here and do that for us.
Those were the, just what was written here that I had questions on. The other thought that came to me when I was reviewing this is, last year we had an application for a carnival to be down on the waterfront. And we agreed to that, but we had asked for the carnival people to find alternative parking options for the people that were parking down there. So my question is, there is still paid parking down there, and I don't know of any plans to eliminate paid parking down there. Do we want something in here so that there's reimbursement, or there's a limited time frame for using the paid parking area?
So the carnival and circus is a different section of the code, so we can amend that section of the code. But if it's not related to a carnival or a circus, then that would be a different issue if there's reimbursement for.
So let's say in case those boat races are revived.
Right.
There would be a need for extensive use of our parking lot. So I don't know, that's just a question to put out to the group. Do we want that mentioned?
And I would just add under where it says city assistance, it would be a paragraph. I would probably put that first, and then police, and then fire. But it would be just a section there that says should, you know, there be some wording that, you know, takes up the whole entire parking lot of A, B, and C. I'll get the exact lot numbers.
Yeah.
You know, if it exceeds, and maybe it's a day limit, so you're okay with 2 days. But once it hits the 3rd day and beyond, the city needs to be reimbursed the revenue that projects. I don't know how you would say that, but.
Well, yeah, reimburse the revenue, and then we also need some mitigation, because people rely on that parking, and there has to be some notification, even if they're using it for a day, you know, a work day.
So
That was the one thing that I noticed was lacking.
So is there a certain time frame that is acceptable, and then
Well,
beyond
Sundays, I
that?
think we allow them to.
Weekends,
Weekends, okay.
Saturday and Sunday, because we have the farmer's market there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Unless it falls on a holiday weekend, then it's a 3
Sunday,
day.
or weekends and holidays. days or something.
Okay, so weekends and holidays are acceptable, because I'll put that in the thing,
Right.
you know, where it's the city assistants, weekends and holidays are okay. But once it hits a non-weekend or a non-holiday, okay, then it's gonna trigger something. And it's
Yeah,
gonna trigger.
mitigation, I don't know how generic we want to be there, but to let them know that that is,
The city has the right to
mhm.
determine whatever, and I'll work with the treasurer to find out, get the language for there. And then also include relocation, and I know that other codes, when I was looking at, they require, the city does it, but they have to reimburse the city to put ads in the paper notifying of such
Oh.
and such. So we could do the same thing, require that notice be put in the paper. I mean, it's pretty cheap if the city does it,
Yeah.
and we just invoice them for it. I think it's like $15 for that Friday. It's only in the quarter to independent, but we can require some sort of notification.
So let's think about this, and then are we good to bring this to a work study, or do we want it to come back to this group for a first work study? Because we'd like it adopted by December, so
Yeah,
it goes in
end of the year.
effect in January.
So the timeline, so even though we're hoping to have it effective January 1st, 2017, my hopes is that we can at least adopt it by November, so I can get 30 to 45 days notice to the public to let them know
Right.
it's going to be changing. So
Okay.
we have a little bit of time if the committee wanted to work one more time.
We could bring it back one more time after she makes her
So
changes. and
September,
then
yes,
it's-
so it'd be October, and then, well, it'll be a little short because it'll go to the November work study
Yeah,
session.
because it needs to go to full council before it.
Well, unless, let me see, if we meet, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but if we meet before the work study, well, yeah, we always meet the
Right.
second Monday, and work
Work
study's
study's
the
the
third, so it'll be
13th.
simultaneously.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll schedule it for the October work study session.
Okay.
Okay, so Patty's gonna be about 30 minutes late.
We'll get that, we can get.
I would like us to be clearer on the parking mitigation and expectations. I'm actually not okay with giving them 2 free days during the week in terms of the revenue loss, because I think that's 400 a day in rough figures. Or I think we have to discuss, do we want to give away that revenue for a couple days up to a certain amount? Because none of the others have hard figures here. And to me, the police and fire is different from just the parking, because that doesn't inconvenience other people as well. But I think we do want to put in that they have to be aware if they're displacing parking, that they have to look into that.
So you think just holidays and weekends would be acceptable, and then any day that affects, none of those and,
There
somehow
needs to be
overnight.
some sort of mitigation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I personally am not supportive of tying it up for a long time.
Okay, so I'll draft up some language, have it ready for the committee meeting, and then you guys can look at it and make sure it's good, and then also have time to change it before it goes to council if that works study
Yeah.
session, so,
Yeah.
okay. And then, I'll also send this over to legal counsel and have, I know it was looked at, I think, by the previous legal counsel, the current might have, but again, one more look with her just to make sure everything's
Okay.
good.
Okay, then we're going on to our trademark.
And then I did provide I don't know if you guys seen what the old
Yeah.
application looks like, so this is what it was before, and this is what I'm proposing it to be.
Boy, it is so much more streamlined.
So, yeah,
is
it looks
just-
a lot better.
Having
It's
filled a
easier.
few of these out as you have, this is much better. I have one question.
Mhm.
Sometimes the event will cross over to the courts authority. Is there a way to incorporate that into this? Or
We do have it in there that says if it's using other people's property, that they need to get permission and provide us some sort of proof.
Okay.
But the question on that, I think, becomes, and I think under our piece on our website, it says which is port property.
Right, I think there's a map,
I
and
think
then there's
there's a map.
their application itself. If not, we'll make sure that that's all in there, but should all be in there. Let's see.
I just looked at the checklist and it didn't have it on the.
Okay, I will
Okay.
make sure it's on there if it's not.
It says right on the first page of that application, under what if my event is outside the city limits or on private property. It talks about it there. if your event is utilizing the property of the Port of Bremerton, you will need to contact the Port of Bremerton. The only issue with that is for people to know what is Port of Bremerton.
Right, and then we'll also have the special event packet. We'll
Right.
give them both if they're new.
Right, yeah. So we have that whole packet.
Okay.
We don't want to make it difficult, we just want them to be able to do it, fill us out a complete thing to start
Yeah.
with and not a lot of back and forth.
This provides that much more streamlined.
Okay, so I think that's it on the public event application. Unless you guys have any other questions or questions.
No, that was my
No,
only
that's
one.
good. And I'll just let the two people in the audience know, Patty Brackfeld has indicated she's going to be a little late because, which is 13 minutes. But we still have work items, so it won't slow us down. It'll just be more boring for you guys. Okay, we'll go on to the trademark.
So, first, I guess I should apologize if this is duplicate information, because I think when I submitted it to the committee and then I looked at some previous notes, so some of it may be duplicate, but as far as the policy and use, the city policy, procedure, and use application. But, so what I had done is ask the city attorney to look to see if we could trademark the wayfinding system logo.
Right.
And so what you guys have is hopefully a trademark registration renewal.
Mhm.
And now I'm trying to find my notes. So this, basically what we have to do is, so we don't need to federally trademark the trademark, we just need to register it with the state of Washington. And the reason why we don't need to federally do it is because we're not offering city services across state lines. All of the city services occur within Washington state, and federal trademark protection applies to interstate and international goods and services. So she said that basically we just need to register with the state. And if we ever decide to start marketing internationally or across the state lines, and that's when we need to look into federal trade, and that becomes a lot more complicated and a lot more expensive. She did say that we do, because we don't have to trademark the logo in order to protect our rights. She says that the city trademark rights arise from its use of the logo, so we have underlying rights to use the image. State registration is not needed to obtain enforcement rights. However, registration provides leverage against an infringer or enhances the remedies that are available to the city in a infringement action. So because we created it, we use it, it's a city use, we have some sort of protection, but again, she says we probably should trademark it. It's pretty cost effective.
It's only $55 for the new filing, and then it's $50 for 5 years, is $10 a year to.
Well, it's per use, so you have to, so whatever.
Oh, per use?
Per
classification.
Yeah, so per classification, which means that if you go to pay on the back of the
Okay.
Yeah.
application, so for goods of services, so for example, if the wayfinding, so you have to think, if we're allowing people to use it, okay, we also have to think outside the box as to what are they gonna be using it on. So, which is, they could be using it on jewelry, they could use it on musical instruments, they could use it on clothing, fabrics, toys, accessories, food packages, light beverages, wines, whatever, advertising a business. So she says that you have to identify each one that you think that the logo is going to be used for.
What about the general services? What if we just wanted one in a generic way, like we wanted?
You have to assign a good or a service, so.
Like advertising a business, would that be
Correct.
logical?
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's what we would, so it wouldn't be allowed on any clothing or any jewelry, any paper goods or printed matter, so, paper goods or
But
printed
I
matter.
would think that we would want someone to be able to put it on a T-shirt,
Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
clothing.
Right.
And I would think we would want someone, again, printed matter
bumper stickers.
Bumper stickers or
Yeah.
any number of things.
And then it says personal and social. So personal and social is going to be, that's going to allow, I would assume social is going to be OBSA and the farmer's market. This is for city use, but personal and social with a policy and use agreement
Oh,
is
this
going to allow
is,
that.
okay.
So what type of goods and services do we want to register with the state of Washington? Where are we going to put our logo?
So this is protecting in case someone, let's say we had number 25 for clothing, and someone had unauthorized use on a t-shirt, this would protect us if we want to remedy that we don't want them to use it for that. But on the other hand, we have to anticipate any possible use.
Yeah.
So this is really kind of cumbersome.
And she said you can update this anytime, it's just that extra $55 or whatever it is, $50.
Yeah, it's
$50.
55 to,
For one or.
to start.
Five, yeah.
You know, to register
Yeah.
it, and then it's $50 every 5 years or $10 a year. So the ongoing cost is not significant, but we would want to think that it could go on coffee mugs. You know, there are things that,
Yeah, here's housewares and glass.
So mugs and stuff, so. And then we also have to provide.
oh, and we use it on jewelry, we use it on our lapel pins.
And we have to attach 3 samples of the trademark, including 1 original. So we have to not only describe what we're going to be using it, register it, but we also have to provide samples to the state.
Nick has a large file with samples. So do we want to move forward with trademarking it, or do we?
And then we have to describe the exact manner in which the trademark is affixed to the goods or displayed with services, which again, we can work
So
with
what's
that.
our biggest concern about trademarking it? What is the biggest concern? You know, what's the driving reason for doing it? What could possibly happen?
I think we're afraid that someone might use it on a product that we may not deem suitable for the city. I don't want to name any, but let's say.
A hate group or something.
Yeah, either that or maybe just a product that we think is.
Poor taste.
Yeah. It sounds like we could, do we have any protection if we don't do this?
She did say
Oh,
that we
there's
have an
underlying-
underlying use
yeah,
protection already.
yeah.
So if somebody's using it, then, but I would say that if you guys do not go move forward with trademarking with the state of Washington, at a bare minimum, you should have a use policy, an application, because that's where it's gonna come into play. So if somebody's using it, that the city, you know, doesn't prefer that they use it, I would say that the case is pretty gonna be hard pressed
You're
to
right.
support it, because, you know, you're letting anybody and everybody, and then why just all of a sudden this person, you can't, you know, it could be perceived as discrimination of some sort. So if you have you know, what's gonna protect the city up front is a use of, you know, how you can use it. You can't limit who can use it, but you can limit how it's to be used and what they can use it for.
At a minimum, I think we should go with advertising and business, just the service.
Well, I see 5. I've looked through this tonight. I see 5 that apply. I don't see, the others just don't see the.
Which 5 are you looking at?
Number 14, jewelry. Number 21, housewares and glass. Number 25, clothing. I don't know what fancy goods means. Well, that's we're going to get involved in fancy goods. 35, advertising and business, and 45, personal and social. I think that pretty much.
What about number 16?
I saw 16
Yeah.
also.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I missed that one.
And 28, I don't know.
Toys and sporting goods.
What if,
Probably not.
I mean, I know we've talked about not using this on vehicles, but what if we wanted to put it on the side of the vehicle as police or at some point in the future?
All of our vehicles.
Where's that?
Well,
Oh, red, the little reds. Yeah.
Okay, it's $55 a deal. So if we did the 8 that we've mentioned, that's $440. So what I would propose is that we move forward to the trademark, registering the trademark, developing the policy and procedures on it, and allocating in the neighborhood of $500 in the budget so that it becomes a budget amount.
Do you want somebody who applies to use the logo, help offset some of the cost? And put a $15, $10, $25 application fee?
Well, first of all, and that's one of the things I wanted to talk to about this policy.
And this is this real rough
Right,
draft.
right. I read it, and I didn't do a lot of, I came away with the feeling and didn't do the specific things. But we want it to be as easy as possible for those people that are having special events in our city to use our logo in their marketing material. And people that are having special events have already gone through a vetting process. So I would like, and I think we have done this before, to have right in the application,
very good.
the agreement
Yeah.
Right.
to use the logo.
Mhm.
It's in the lodging tax agreement application. And this could say if you're, an LTAC recipient, fees waived or whatever, or if you're holding a special event, because you can have a special event that doesn't get lodging tax funds, so you could do one or the other. Either one, if you're only supportive of no fee if there is lodging tax reimbursement, or if they just hold a special event, then you're going to also have to define what that special event is for them to use it, for them to have no charge. For example, the cruise, does it make sense not to charge them for some reason if they don't get lodging tax one year? But what about...
The Mustangs is one that does not.
Right. So what about an event that we get these one-offs, if you will, that are going to have about 10 or 15 people that are going to walk for water, and it's like from City Hall to Annapolis Dock and back, and they have put in a public event application, but it's not as maybe successful or well attended as other events. Are you going to allow them the same privilege just because they put in a public event application?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if we vetted them, the concern is simply that it's being used inappropriately. And if we have vetted the event and vetted the organization sponsoring the event, then I think that we should be covered.
And then I will add also, so it's already on the lodging tax application. So I will also make sure that there's a section on the new application for, that'll at least pose the question, are you going to be using it? If so, blah, blah, blah. They may have to fill out an application.
Right, I don't
but
want it
there's no
to be
fee.
cumbersome for our partners to use it.
Right, we've streamlined this whole process, so
It seems pretty
it's
easy. I
done
just
so
feel
well that why would we want to throw another wrench in the gears? I
And
agree.
I will let Matt and Sharon know. We got notice from Petra, hopefully she's running a little late. So we're continuing on with our regular business.
Thank you. So, I can't think of a scenario where we would charge somebody other than for profit. So for example, if we're not holding an event, or if they haven't received lodging tax funds, and it is purely for profit, whatever that may be, then we need, what's
Yeah,
the
a
fees at
booth-
$100 to offset, some of the merchandise. We would assume that they're going to.
What's has there been a typical cost to take a simple application and run it through the process here at City Hall, what that cost is?
Depends on which department you're looking at. So when I originally did with the former committee, it was asked that I do a cost analysis of what it would cost to do a public event application process. And between all of the departments that actually touch it and review it and the staff that does it, it was I think like $175 just to process the application. That includes the finance department, the clerk's office, the police department, public works, GCD. That's everybody, because everybody usually spends at least 15 to 20 minutes on the application, and then our office spends probably at least an hour and a half from beginning to end on the application process as well. That's even including bringing it to the city council. So some of that's going to be relieved because most of it's a reoccurring event. There's not going to be any need to bring it before council unless there's something weird that surfaces. Probably reduce by half. So I think right now it's at $50. I mean it's close enough. You're always going to have changes as staff. it's gonna be high one year and then low the next year. So as staff is here longer, their wages go up longer, and as they leave and we get new people, they're at the lower rate, and so you just have this influx
So it
of
modulates.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
So-
also their familiarity with the events changed too.
Yeah.
But under license agreement, it says not-for-profit organizations may be granted use of the city logo without a license fee in connection with merchandise sales. For-profits are granted permission to use the city logos in connection with merchandise for sale. Shall enter into a license agreement and pay a license fee. The license fee is 5% of the gross sales amount for the first sale of the item bearing the city logo.
And I think the first sale means, well, and it can mean two different ways. One, first sale means it's the first sale of it, not meaning if they were, find it in Goodwill, and they would have
Right.
to pay, So that's my interpretation. We would also make sure that there's some sort of definition or clarify that that's what first sale means, not their first production of the 500
Right.
mugs, it's the second,
Right.
But that would also be up to the committee on maybe they just
Right.
want the proceeds from the first sale, I don't know.
So are we comfortable with 5%?
I don't have anything to base it on, and I'm
No.
sure we didn't make it up. I'm sure we got
This was
that.
just from some other jurisdiction that has the same policy, or that has a policy, that's what this is. And I know I gotta take out Ralph's for that example, but.
Yeah, the other thing that kind of it didn't confuse me, but I didn't want it to be cumbersome. It's under guidelines, number 2. It says third-party entities must submit a pre-event copy of the final artwork for approval by the city clerk's office.
Yeah,
I
and that's
mean,
just
if
what
you-
other jurisdictions
Yeah.
have done, so.
And
I'll put
maybe,
as much in here as you guys want, you guys can strike it.
yeah, but I'm just thinking if Fathoms is doing a ad and they stick our bug on there, do we have to approve the ad? I mean,
Oh, gotcha.
how cumbersome do we want? But if somebody is putting this on something they're going to resell, we may want to look at it.
Right, and I don't know how you would, you'd have to say if it's certain merchandise, excluding advertising, you can probably put that comment in there, excluding advertising, no work needs.
I guess I just want it as easy as possible for our partners to be able to use it. But we also need to protect, and so. Are we ready to bring this forward to work study for full council? Oh, she said.
Well, I think so.
So is there some
If
change
you
that
are,
you maybe
I
want
don't
to
know, let me
finalize?
think about it.
Okay.
And we can talk about it at full council.
I'll make sure that that's changed, and then, what was the other one? And then I'll clarify, first sale. I'll make sure that that's a little bit clearer
Okay.
before it goes to council. And then the application, let's just. Okay, so yeah, we'll go to October's work study session, I'm assuming. Okay, and then if you have any other changes before then, just let me know.
Okay.
Brandy has one more item, and Patty is here. So do we want to finish Brandy's one item and then move your two until after Patty? Okay, rather than making our guests wait. Because I think the ferry ridership, which is the next item on the agenda, will go fairly quickly, because we don't have much information.
We don't, and at first I was looking at the numbers and the invoice, and I was like, wow, we're so under budget, but I think the reason why we're under budget is because of those 3 weeks that we did not, the 3 weekends, that we did not advertise, or run the service. I did look at the numbers, and I apologize, I did not give you guys last year's numbers. But one day it was good, one day it wasn't. So, for example, Harbor Festival, Sunday, this year, there's a count of 330 riders. Last year, on the Harbor Festival Sunday, there was 664 riders. So, But on July 3rd of this year, was that right? Yeah, no, excuse me, July 4th of this year, which was on a Monday, we had 385 riders. Last year, on the same day of 4th of July, which was a Saturday, which is weird, there was only 112 riders.
Yeah, but that's because this year, it being a Monday, we paid for the entire day. The last year, when it was a Saturday, we only paid from 8 o'clock.
Oh, is that what? Okay. That's what I should have looked at. 'Cause I know there was one day that they, yeah, that's exactly what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's one day that they were not gonna run because they took their holiday on a different day than we expected. So, okay, so that makes sense.
So we don't have any figures for July?
No, not yet.
Okay.
That's what I was alluding to, Fred. Until we get the end of the session numbers, it's hard to compare.
And they, probably another week or two before we get the invoice. They're usually a few weeks behind on getting the invoices, so we'll get the final one. And it does not look like that we will need the county to contribute. They were last in. So looks like that the court will use all of their $2,500 that they contribute, and then the city of Bremerton and the city of Port Orchard will bear the rest of the cost. So I'm assuming that the invoice is going to be probably $3,500 for our share.
Oh, wow.
Is what I'm guessing. I could be off a little bit, but we budgeted $7,000, so I'm guessing probably around $6,000, a little under $6,000 is what I'm guessing we're going to be paying this year.
What we have had the conversation with Brandy about setting up the debrief meeting with our partners, probably sometime in October. That's typical, or that's what we've done last year. We get the city of Bremerton and the port of Bremerton and us together and talk about, do we want to review the numbers and then make some initial plans for next year.
So we will be, probably today or tomorrow, releasing or announcing or advertising the application for lodging tax, and that'll be open for 3 weeks. First week of October, that first Monday, we'll close the application. So in the next couple weeks, I need to fill out a Foot Ferry application request, so I'm assuming the committee wants me to submit lodging tax requests for reimbursement of Foot Ferries for 2017. And I'm assuming we want to put the same amount, $6,500 or $7,000.
I think it was 7,000, and we discussed that at council, and I'm remembering that council said yes to do what we had done in the past.
What's Bremerton's share?
7.
Same as ours.
Same.
They typically do exactly what we do.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will do that.
Yeah, and then that, if we're awarded that through LTAC, and we don't use all of it, if the ridership is such that we don't use all of it, or the schedule is modified, we don't use all of it, that money goes back to the LTAC, so
It's just not used.
yeah,
Dispersed elsewhere.
yeah. Okay, well, thank you, Brandy. Sure.
I believe I do not have any other items.
No, that's
unless
why
you
we
guys
did
need
that.
me to stay.
You wanna
so
do it?
Awesome.
Reward.
Okay, thank you.
Veggies next time. It's not going over well.
Do you want to share with people?
Yeah, sure. We've got some donuts. If
Yeah,
if your
it's-
brains are tired and you want a quick
And
lift.
I would invite our audience to sit around the table.
Yeah.
And Patty, why don't you come and sit right here by me?
I'm all settled in here, Patty. I'll get here.
I have a UK travel writer here staying.
Oh.
Yeah, and it was, I need a social secretary. And so anyway, she arrived yesterday from London. So my husband is graciously giving her a tour of
Sure.
Bremerton and the mosquito fleet
Oh,
and
wow,
pointing
okay.
out. So anyway, it was one of those things, I just ended up with so many things, but I went, oh my gosh. So anyway, she has to ask Baker to carry
So
it.
that we can find more room.
Thank you.
I can hear better.
There's a spot right here.
Yeah, and there's room right between cars.
Consolidating.
So anyway, I have to move the
Oh, yeah, no, that's,
So
this
it
is
has
all
the
up to,
right-
yes.
No, no.
Yes,
So
yes, yes.
anyway, beautiful. Oh my
Sit
gosh,
on that.
perfect time for these people. They're just in love with the area.
And I would like to welcome Patty Grafko from Visit, it says Visit Kids
It's
at
Visit Kids at Peninsula.
Peninsula now, okay.
We changed the name to make it easier. We decided to do what Visit Seattle and everybody else was doing.
So, anyway, I, as chair of the Economic Development Tourism Committee, invited Patty to come, and then I wanted to invite our partners who work in tourism with us. But what was important to me, because as a committee, we don't focus a lot on tourism, and so I wanted some foundation work, information from Patty regarding how important tourism is to the state, to the Kitsap Peninsula, and the demographics of the tourists that comes this way, and probably some ideas on what strategies, you know, Port Orchard could use or could be used regionally. And so anyway, so we invited Patty, we invited all of you, and thank you for coming, and I will turn it over to Patty.
Thank you.
Patty Clancy Donlin,
Oh,
Port Orchard City
hi.
Council.
Oh, and the pig roast.
Matt Murphy.
Sorry.
You remembered for.
Matt Murphy, Executive Director of the Chamber, Fred
Hi.
Chang. Louis, what's your King? Louis King.
Louis King.
He's with the Sydney Art
Okay.
Museum.
Oh, great.
Yep.
And Carrie is with our Community Development
Oh,
Department.
right, great.
Lorraine Olson is House Bed and Breakfast.
Oh,
and
great.
Bobby Stewart is.
I know.
You know
Miss
Bobby?
Chocolate.
Okay, and you know Sharon.
Yes, Sharon. Hi,
Okay.
Sharon. Nice to see
So
you.
we all know each other now.
So, because we are going to have lodging tax, and I knew there was members here, I am not talking as much at all about Visit Kitsap. That's not my mission here. It's exactly what you said, which is to tell you about the tourism sector. First of all, the tourism industry and the sector is a recognized and established sector of Puget Sound Regional Council and Kitsap Economic Development. So it's one of the 8 established categories. It's just sort of, you know, gets lost in the airports and airplanes and aerospace and defense and Navy, but it is a huge industry for our region and for the state. And so that's, we need the leadership of the municipalities, elected officials to recognize how important tourism is to our region, and you to because you're on KEDA, you're involved in lots of, KRCC, other organizations, and it's really your leadership that's going to decide the role that tourism has in our region. I can be a spokesperson. So what I have for you today is, I have a few things from VKB, but here, I'll pass these out. You're welcome to share. You can have some ladies too. And some of these were for the council members as well, because they have, so I did 7 of them.
Oh.
No, I just have to, yeah. So, and I wasn't sure who was going to be here, so if you want to share, you want to share yours with Bobby, and then you can do to Matt, you can have some too. Because a lot of this is of interest, I think. Now, there's 2 parts of the packet. The one part is this, and that's the one we're going to discuss right now. And then the other part is the tourism report section, which has eye candy in it, if you will. And then there's a cover sheet right here that is just a quick little overview, which I was trying to, the reality is there's a lot of great statistics, so I tried to provide an overview. This document right here, which is really fun to look at for those of you who like charts, and this is a document that is prepared using what is called the Smith Travel Report. Smith Travel Reports, it costs $3,000 a year just to get a certain small little set of data, but it's what's used by Clearwater Casino and all the other hotels. And Smith Travel Report provides data on, and it's a month-to-month, so it's not like the Department of Revenue is 2 months behind. And what that is it shows what areas, and it only has to do with lodging establishments, reporting lodging establishments. So when I say reporting, we have approximately 1,600, almost 1,700 hotel rooms in units in Kitsap. And there's approximately 21 hotel units, and that could be 100 room, 30 room. And so generally with the Smith Travel Reports, that's your Baymonts, your Comfort Inns, those are the ones that are reporting. And so those are sort of become your benchmark. And so this report shows that Kitsap has been the fastest growing as far as increase in lodging in Washington State for several months. In January of 2016, we were up 53%. And I'm going to tell you why we're doing that. So just huge. We have since dropped. We're still the highest. We were at the year end, we were at 23.6% increase for over $7 million increase in local revenues just in hotels. So it's really a wonderful industry for us. It doesn't put any pressure on infrastructure. And then we're adding to that B&Bs, Airbnbs are now, especially on Bainbridge Island, are huge. So the lodging sector is really providing, and we're also, this last month in August, we were the largest percentage increase in average daily room rate, and you know what that means, which is huge for us, and I'll explain to you why that's so important for us. The other documents that you have in this is your data section, if you will, is that these are the Washington State travel impacts through 2015 as reported by the Dean Runyon Associates. And Dean Runyon is also a national leader in data reporting for the hospitality industry, all right? So we pay lots of money, our association, the Washington State Destination Marketing Organization, we pay the Runyon reports to prepare reports for us. And so on these two, these are from the Dean Runyon report, these two, and they show the overall travel revenue for us, for Washington, compared to other counties. And so for total average estimated travel spending in Washington State in Kitsap was $349 million. And that generated $10.5 million in sales or tax revenue to the county. So we are an industry that is generating revenue. And then this report right here, this is a summary of travel impacts through 2015. And as you can see, direct spending went from $2.1 million in 2000 to $349 million in 2015. So we're also very much of a growth industry as well. And then it shows it's broken down by earnings, and then local tax receipts here are 10.5. So there's and then this report, this one is a little more complicated, but it's still important and worth noting, especially for those of you in city government, is that this has to do with, this is from, again, the Department of Revenue. And what this is a year-to-year analysis of all of the different types of industries in Kitsap and what they're generating. So it shows you on the second page, it shows that, for instance, in accommodation, which is in food sector, which is number 72, which is the industry codes, that for for the first, and these are first quarter only. So that lodging for the first quarter of 2015, and it generated 2.1 million for the first quarter, but restaurants, food service, which, you know, I know it's not all tourism, and that's why the Runyon report takes a percentage of those, but still, eating and drinking is a lot of money in Kitsap,
Yeah.
35 million just in the first quarter, so, which is entertainment. So I think that the retail sector, and while we're not the largest industry, certainly the military, healthcare, construction, but we are respectable as far as our generating revenues. This is from the Washington State Department of Revenue. I'm sorry, they were supposed to be in color, but my copier, so they're black and white, so it's this one right here. This is a comparison of lodging tax revenues from 2014 to 2015. And even in Kitsap County alone, we generated an additional 88,000 in additional lodging tax revenue. We went from 330 in 2014 to 425,000. Remember, that only represents 4% of the gross. So, you know, those
Say
are
that again?
4%, because these are 2% and 2%. So
Okay.
it's the other 96%. So, and so so we went from so Kitsap County as a whole has $1.5 million to spend on marketing itself. So we do have some revenue here. So that part of my presentation is to let you know that this is not an industry that doesn't have enormous potential. So how have we been collectively working to take advantage of that? And one of the missions that we've had over the last 7 years, VCB, is to help the hotels reduce their reliance on government travel, number one. In 2012, I believe it was, the Office of GSA office, which is the organization, the federal organization that determines the per diem rates, General Accounting Office, I believe it is. Anyway, they decided that Bremerton, which was the city that was representing our area, they pick a city. They decided, you know what, you guys are not reporting, you know, the big hotels weren't reporting. And so they said, you know, it looks to us like your average room rate's like $76. So they took Bremerton out of its own designated per diem category and dumped us into what's called the general CONUS. And that was said, that's with Nebraska, it doesn't matter. Any government travel, the per diem rate was set at $76. But worse than that was we had $66 per day in meals and incidentals, and that was reduced to $46. That $20 a day reduction, we estimated by the number of hotel rooms, percentage of government travel, cost the county about $7 million in lost revenue that people had as disposable income. So unfortunately, the hotels can't collaborate and go, okay, everybody report your highest rates. But gradually, the government has increased that per diem, and it's now up to 89. But if you're the Oxford Suites, 89 isn't cutting it. I mean, they're 130. And so one of our missions, and same is true with Chan at Port Orchard, he's a little less reliant on it because you have to be like 20 miles or 25 miles within the facility. So North Kitsap is just, except, you know, some of the little hotels for Keyport, but generally those hotels did not benefit at all from government because they were too far away. And the reality is the only hotel that is outside of Paulsville that's a factor is Blue Water Inn in Kingston, and that's a little, you know, they're getting better. but that's not a high-end hotel at all. So, it's really the Paulsbo Inn and then the guest house inn in Paulsbo, and they might see some government from the Keyport. So, but Silverdale, Bremerton, hugely reliant on government. So what we did is we started to institute a marketing strategy that would really target into families, leisure travel, especially in the Puget Sound, and just start getting people to come over. And the reality is, folks, anything on the Kitsap Peninsula, the minute you cross that bridge, you're a destination. So we are a destination. Gig Harbor's a destination. You get off that I-5 corridor, we're a destination. So you really have to be providing reasons for why people need to get off I-5 and come and cross that bridge. We're also the only place that charges people to leave. We charge $6 to tell people to leave. I really like that. You can leave now. Leave for $6. But anyway, so you have to be really realistic. So in addition to the ferries, which I love, we really target into the south, into getting Gig Harbor, South Seattle, Tacoma, those areas, Covington, and getting those families and people to come over here and get out of Dodge. That's really what our focus has been all year round, just nothing fancy. We don't have destination hotels. The only destination hotel that we have is Clearwater Casino, period. And they are on the tribal, and we don't get any revenues or lodging tax from them, but they're a big draw, so, but still.
Okay, I want to go back to what you just said. When you're looking at this increase in this 23%,
Yeah.
this increase in
Right.
tourism, that's excluding
That-
Clearwater and the Point.
Actually, on this particular report, the Smith Travel, it does include them.
But
But
not on
that-
the revenue side.
Yeah, not on these dollar sides. And the reason that they're important though in Smith Travel, because they do a trend, and these numbers are 2015. They didn't open their hotel until May of 2015, but it's only 100 rooms, and so when I look at that, sure but the one thing with Clearwater, no government travel, no per diem. Their rooms are going crazy, and because they have that big new conference, they're now a huge feeder for the north end, even a little bit into Silverdale, because there's just not enough rooms. And so they get these big conferences and things, and so, but they're charging $300 a night. They're also really ramping up their live music they're really targeting non-casino visitors. So those visitors are more apt to do leisure travel activities, not just be there to go to the casino. So Russell Steele, who's Port Madison Enterprises, is on our board now. And he concurs with that. So yes, correct. So those numbers, but more importantly, doing an evaluation of the numbers, because these Smith Travel reports came with a whole set of numbers having to do with average daily room rates, everything, and those were all up as well. So what we have heard from the hotels now is that because of the increase in leisure travel, and because we're really targeting into the Puget Sound where the hotels are horribly expensive, that families coming over here and paying $140 or $120 or $100 a night for a waterfront view with a beach where their kids can run and their dogs. So that is just a huge market for us and for Port Orchard and for Paulsbo and Silverdale as well, because we're the third most densely populated county in Washington State. So we have the benefit of having all these great beaches, all this natural environment, and great beers and martinis and restaurants and shops that you don't have when you go to the Olympic Peninsula. So our mission has really been to position the region including Gig Harbor, all the way from the bridge. We have to sell the bridges. We have to sell multiple access points, not just the ferries, because as you all know, they're slammed during the summer. There are wait lines, 2 and 3 hours. We really need to make sure people know that they can get to us a lot of different ways. So we have, the hotels in Silverdale have reported that because their leisure travel is up, their per diem room rates are up, and it also means that they can set caps on their number of government travel at that lower rate. So they set it at a maximum, and then they go, sorry, we're going to charge you more, because they don't want to give up those 130 rooms for something that's $89. So we've really, really worked to build that up, and we now have the confidence of the hoteliers to recognize that, yes, in fact, Kitsap does have something to sell as a tourist destination. But everybody talks about, well, we're not Disneyland, but we are. If you take the region as a whole, whether it's Little Norway, whether it's Port Orchard and all your great shops, and I know that you're with Sam, we're working really closely with Sam at Josephine's Redeemed. We helped her do her big new Redeemed festival last year. She had record turnout at the fairgrounds. We're helping her again for her 2-a-day event in October, and I noticed that all the people that were in those little orange places, buildings down by Annapolis are now moving to downtown Port Orchard. I saw Tumbleweed and all those guys. That's a really huge market for you folks, all that redeemed, recycled. It's all very arty. It's a little different than antiques, of course, but it's perfect for us because they're recycling things. So it's really in keeping with our natural side concept, which is we are trying to revitalize using our natural assets. And I think that's really the number one strategy for Port Orchard for us, is marketing what we have. And our Disneylands are in fact our lands, our trails, our waterfronts. Port Orchard has some of the most spectacular in South Kitsap waterfront scenic rides, whether you're in a car or a bike, walking along the shoreline. And that's something that you can really, really take advantage of. Port Orchard can. So in this packet right here, because I want to be able to show you. So this is, I'm supposed to put these out like every 2 months. If I get them out every 6 months, it's a miracle. But we are doing lots of stuff. So this shows some of the work that we're doing, the Visit Kitsap, as far as regional tourism marketing, that we'll share with you. The things that we're doing on behalf of all of our communities, all the different things that we're doing to try and help people appreciate the power, the economic benefit potential of the tourism sector. So, and then I just wanted to show you that for Port Orchard, we love Port Orchard. We think that it's completely different. North Kitsap has casinos, 2 casinos, they have ferry terminals, they have all these other things. Central has shopping galore, but Port Orchard has just a really wonderful sense of relaxation, chill out, unwind, scenic beauty that when you're in Manchester, you can look across and see Seattle. And here you are standing on this beautiful shore. And those visitors are feeders for hotels, which provide the lodging tax. We don't focus a lot on days in at this time. We understand that they do a lot of sports, and I think that they do other things. But for the Seattle market, we're really trying to help be a feeder for B&Bs, Airbnbs, Cedar Cove, but for the hotels that we can put in our ads, and almost all of our ads list all the hotels, including Port Orchard. So we really see Port Orchard as extremely valuable as far as our marketing strategy for the entire region. You are also the closest destination for the targeting people coming up from across the bridge, coming up from Shelton, coming up from Gig Harbor. They don't have to worry about the ferry with you. So on this one, Matt, I made this. Obliteride is such a classic example of a type of event that we were happy. We could not have done it without Matt and his team at the Chamber. It's such a great example of collaboration, and it was so successful. And it was created an opportunity for us to really showcase the South Kitsap outdoor recreation opportunities. Obliteride, is people here familiar with Obliteride? Do you know what that is? It's probably the largest and one of the most prestigious fundraising organizations in Seattle. It's for Fred Hutch Cancer Research. And it is all over. It costs $5,000 to sponsor a rest stop. Their average sponsorships are $100,000. You know, it's Blue Nile, it's huge. Well, I saw them, the organizers, at a Seattle Bike Show about 3 years ago, and they had, it's all very high-end, very high, as Matt will tell you, hugely organized. And they pay for everything. And they, I saw this big map of their routes, and I said, you don't have a route on the Kitsap Peninsula. And so I worked with them, and they said, okay, well, we'll add a route. Well, it was so successful. People loved coming to the Kitsap Peninsula that this year, their 3 longest routes are on the Kitsap Peninsula. They're a 2-day route, they're 85, and we increased their riders from 100 riders to 300 riders. We also encouraged them to please add a check-in in Paulsbo because they had their check-in only in Seattle. So everybody on this side had to go to Seattle, check in, and then take a ferry. And we said, you know, we can really help you with this. They were so appreciative of the work that we did. They gifted us a $5,000 rest stop in South Kitsap at the fire station, which was the lunch stop. And then they gave us like all this free press, but more than that, as you can see from the pictures, this is your demo. These are your high-end people that are going to eat at your restaurants. They're going to fill up your shops. They're going to come back and take advantage of your cycling route. So you had the opportunity, thanks to the collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce, because they did all the work. All I did was I helped set it up and negotiate it, but Matt and his team were the ones that manned the booth. They set it up, they tore it down. So we just couldn't have done it without that collaboration.
And if you know for next year, they can actually go through the city.
You know what? We can talk to them about that, and I'll tell you what would be better though is that get them, because it's a route, and then everybody has to end up back in Seattle for the big party. Is that they are so fixated. We can bring it up to them to see if but they're very specific about their stops and rest stops. We could see if they could do that, but they coordinate their routes, I guess, with their bike people. We actually did get one move for Silverdale because they had it in some obscure church. And I said, can't you put it at the Silverdale waterfront? But it took like 3 months to get them to make that consideration, but it worked out really well. And then we had like Kitsap physical therapy, but we also got REI involved. They did not have REI involved, and REI is now on our board. And so REI provided support staff we were hoping they would come to ours, but they went to the Paul's Boat. But it doesn't matter. So those partnerships, so REI knew about our partnership with Obliteride, that just opens the door to potential conferences, to events, meetings, weddings, because all those people that we've just now introduced to South Kitsap, they'll come back. And it didn't really cost us anything. They gifted, I think VKB donated $700 to them to help pay for lunches at the rest stop for South Kitsap. But other than that, all the press we got, all the mentions we got for the region were just due to our willingness to contribute time and help.
So I have questions now. You've worked some
Go.
interest. And one of that is, because biking is a big sport, what do you, Port Orchard theoretically then, or groups within Port Orchard could work with the bicycle community
Absolutely.
and establish routes here and publish them, make them available to the bike clubs?
Well, I'll tell you what, we're working with the bike club. So here, for the first time, I finally had to take it from Public Works to get it done. It took 5 years, and I finally just said, give it to me. And so we spent $20,000 on this, but Public Works contributed $5,000 for the printing. But we finally got a bike map, and this whole thing was created by the West Sound Bicycle Club and the Non-Motorized Committee for the county. And we made sure that we had stops in each one of our areas, but including, so Port Orchard has quite a bit, as you can see. Manchester, Southworth, Port Orchard, Olalla. I mean, really, seriously, you folks have just huge potential. So I would definitely make part of your strategy to be the bike-friendliest city. Anyway, I mean, it's a great demographic. They love to eat, drink, they have lots of money. It's outdoor recreation. We also found that this targeting for Puget Sound and outdoor recreation, these people are also heavy supporters of things like farmers markets, art. They're foodies, so they love things like chocolate. In fact, one of the funny things that we did when we hosted bike races, we had a little table, and we would get Carter's chocolates and Amy's chocolates and cut them up and put them with apples. And so all these racers would come and grab apples and chocolates, and then we'd have the cards for Amy's and Carter's and stuff.
Another question I have is, we have, down on our waterfront, we have a parking lot area by the gazebo
Right.
that we will have events at during the
yes.
summer.
Mhm.
And, the Mustangs, the
Perfect.
crews take up. So
Perfect.
my question is, how important, or what role do those special events that we have down there play in attracting people to Port Orchard?
Well, I think that when you're looking at cyclists, there's like the folks that do Obliteride, but your area is so ideally suited for family cycling too, leisure cycling, where you can get families with kids, they're staying at the hotel. Those kinds of events are perfect for them. But also we had right here is a bike rest stop program that we have been trying to, it's not for any lack of interest, it's lack of staff, time, and everything. But this bike rest stop program, which you folks would be perfect at, is making sure cyclists know that you welcome them. So that means, in fact, even your great stop is that little bridge.
Mm-hmm.
That little bridge, all you have to do is put bike racks and then put a little sign, bicycle, and then coordinate with Slaughter County as a bike rest stop. You get beer, water, wine, you got a great little bridge with a lookout. Those can all be really wonderful stops along the way for your bicycle touring.
I have a comment here.
Sure.
I live on Colchester,
Okay.
which I get a lot of bicycles
Yeah,
up there.
yeah.
But the speed limit is 40 miles an hour through there, people are going 50 and 60 down that road.
Mhm.
We have a major concern in that area because we have a wreck. People going off the
Yeah.
road, speeding, I mean,
Mhm.
at least once a week now.
Mhm.
How can we slow that traffic down?
So one of the things that we've done, thank you, that's a great question. We have that happen a lot in Hansville, all over the place. One of the things that's happening is we work, like I said, with the non-motorized committee for the county. And Dave Brumsicle, who is also on our board, and he's a Silverdale cycler. And one of the things that we are really working with the county, and I assume that's unincorporated,
Mhm.
is that to make that information available and express that to the non-motorized cycling group, because they work with the county, because one of the things we're trying to help the county understand is how important the cycling community and industry is to our economic development. So like we've been working with them to make sure, like when they're doing planning, for instance, that we're getting cycling paths, real usable cycling paths that are incorporated into the planning process. So like in Silverdale right now, there's a big, huge bunch of new road construction and improvements. And part of that are really adequate cycling paths, for non-motorized. So my recommendation, I'm happy to put you in touch with Dave Brumsicle and the non-motorized. You want to be part of that group so that you can say, these are areas that we have concerns about. Cycling is very important to our community.
Yes.
That-
Through our neighborhood there, there's a lot of us who own really nice bikes,
Yes,
but we
exactly.
will not get out on these roads
Yes.
because you can't even walk down.
Yeah, so you need to be, and that's what I was saying, the cities actually say, listen, tourism is important to us, and part of tourism is the cycling community, or non-motorized. That's really what we did. John Coons, Olympic Outdoor Center, was really my person when it came to the National Water Trails. That's how we got the National Water Trails, because John Coons is Olympic Outdoor Center, and it was hugely important to him. And this bike map came about because I got Dave Brumsicle, who is Silverdale Cycler, who really hammered away, and then we worked with the county on, and then I finally took charge of the map and said, give it to me, so we could get it done. Yeah, go ahead.
I really love this map, and I so appreciate it. Does it have you made me think about this, the bike trails that aren't on the highways? I know there's a couple.
What we did was we only picked 14, and also with regard to adding them to all of these routes are added to ride with GPS. These are all available on a thing that says bike routes online, so people can look at them on their mobile apps. And what we need to do is, because this map is a hard copy, obviously, we would love to get input on bike routes that other people like, and then we can add them to the Ride with GPS. There's Map My Ride, there's several mapping ones. So I have deferred to the cycling community to make recommendations. So if you have a recommendation that you think a route should be added or would be great to add, we can also, we're just kind of getting started on this, we can do South Kitsap routes as well, specific. So if you had something, was your
I was
question?
specifically addressing non-road, off-road routes that are
Oh.
bike trails, some of the new bike trails that we have.
Sure.
Between Gig Harbor and here, that
Yes.
aren't even on a road. That's what I was
Oh, I see
addressing.
what you're saying. You know what, I think for the purposes of this map, what they did was stay with the ones that, because it's technically targeted to visitors who may not know the side routes. But those are ones that definitely can be and should be added as part of our expansion of, the cycling resources. We had I'll send it to you and then you can share it. There's this great little video clip, and I don't know if anybody's seen it. You may have seen it. The one from Shanghai. Did you see the Shanghai? So on it, it's a great little clip about Shanghai, these two bicyclists, and I met them in Belfair, and they asked me for directions how to get to the place, and I said, well, where are you from? They said, oh, Shanghai. They just went on and on about how much they love Port Orchard and cycling, and they'd come across from southward. So I said, well, wait a minute. So I ran outside with my phone, the bright sunlight, and these guys went on and on how much they loved Port Orchard and how beautiful the scenic, and it was the most beautiful land because they came from Shanghai where you can't even see the sun because their buildings are so high. So you have people, international travelers who love you. So and then the only other thing I would say is that it's not outdoor recreation, but Debbie Maycomber is sort of a built-in tourist attraction that I think is totally untapped and underutilized. And I just checked, and she still has her Hallmark channel for Cedar Cove, and I think that's another area of a potential draw. So anyway, I hope that answers. Oh, we are doing a lot with international. So the other things that are in your packet, just so you know, is that from a PR point of view, like I said, we have been trying to market the entire region. That's our job. So Kitsap Peninsula. So we're always working with travel writers on behalf of all of our communities, and we're really happy to report that Washington State, this is a national website, and I think this is good for you too, because you could say Port Orchard on the Kitsap Peninsula and take advantage of this, is Kitsap Peninsula for the first time was listed as an actual own destination, and we beat out Olympic Park as number 10 of 25 best places to visit in Washington State. So you could all be taking advantage of that by saying Port Orchard on the Kitsap Peninsula. And then Hansville, I know it's the other end, but again, it's a county, it's Kitsap Peninsula, number 8 of best beaches in Washington State. And again, that's just sending a message to people, come over to the Kitsap Peninsula, and you folks have lots of, and then we take Port Orchard with us. This is another big draw for us is international market, whether it's outdoor. In fact, my gal that I'm meeting with right now she's doing women weekend getaway from London. And they wanted to, it's a women's weekend getaway for women in England, London. She's from London, and so her publication is one of the largest in England, in London, and it is Women's World, whatever, and it's 35 to 50. But they like doing things like group bicycling. They don't want to do hardcore mountain climbing. They just want to come over, go to the casino, go kayaking. So she's over here from England as a guest of Port of Seattle, and so we have, because of our relationship with the Port of Seattle, we now get those people that used to all go to the Olympic Peninsula only, because they're now realizing we are not camping. We're just, you get out of Seattle and get out of the traffic. You still get your beer and martini, but you can cycle, kayaking, and have some natural environment. So we just want to let you know that, again, Port Orchard is just such an important part of the region. So we hope that this presentation will help convince you and because we really need the support of the city councils with regard when they're in meetings with KEDA, or like, hey, we need to be focused on the opportunities tourism industry presents to our region. So sure.
So if we presented you with some of our new walking maps, which you may not have seen, they're very nice.
Oh, good. We'd love to have those.
Then would that be a marketing tool for you, or is it
Oh,
just
absolutely.
a downtown?
No, in fact, we have one from Paulsbo, and we include that with our information to travel writers, and because a lot of times they may just want to see, that particular area. So any of that kind of literature we're always happy to include in our packets. Again, we have this sort of master one that includes all of you. And, but again, you know, I think the reality is everything's online. So the more that you can have a Google map, we did one for the agritourism industry. And so if you go to Visit Kitsap and go under agritourism and click on it, you'll see a Google map. Those are free. Google lets you make those for free. So you could actually do, and they're mobile friendly, so you could actually work in collaboration, your downtown, PSOVA, work together and have a Google map for Port Orchard that listed your, you know, restaurants. I mean, so that's what we did for the the farms. So they would have the farmers markets, farms that you can visit, not the pig slaughtering ones. But yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of farms here, but a lot of. But we did the ones that have like the little farm stands that you could drive by, and then also the vineyards, places like that. So we have Olala Winery, for instance, on there. So was that, you have any questions?
I do.
Oh, you do, okay, great.
With this 20-some% increase in tourism in the area, has that spoken to, how are the hoteliers receiving that? Is that pressuring them to consider increasing beds in Kitsap?
Well, we have the Point Casinos opening a new hotel, but again, that's Tribes, and they are already,
that.
yeah, they are. Well, we're working, like in downtown Bremerton, I believe Wes Larson from, who's on Kita, but he's a hometown guy. He just bought the property next to the Hampton and is talking about putting a boutique hotel. We hope we're looking at that. But, you know, I think that a lot of the research that was provided initially to economic development leaders was based on per diem rates, not on, and so it didn't look favorable. So a lot of people, oh my gosh, those rates are terrible. But they were looking at the historical, you know, typical government sector versus the potential of leisure travel and non-government sector. And also to another point is that we've talked like with Mike Brown, PHP, who's building the Spyglass apartments, to have them put extended stay units in those and free up my hotel rooms. Because right now, the Marriott, for instance, is used as extended stay. So, but I also think that the marketing strategy and how we position the region can also help our smaller hotels, like the Oyster Bay, the Quality Inns. Our motto is you don't have to get dressed up to go to the elevator. And you can bring your cats, your dogs, your, you know, your kids and your sandy shoes, and you're welcome here. So, and then we're also working with the Port of Seattle on a whole, which is kind of exciting for the website, is international travel. They gave us a grant to develop the first, it's almost one of the first ever international portals, and we're targeting Scandinavians, Japanese, Chinese, German, and that's going to be launched in a month or so. But again, international travel is another, I think, area that you can look at, whether it's international travel just for leisure or international travel for recreation. Another opportunity.
Is kayaking a big, I can see that in Port Orchard.
Yeah.
Eventually, is it a big?
Well, I'll tell you that the reason kayaking isn't as big as it is in North Kitsap is because of the currents. In fact, the new Port Waterman facility down there, they added, so you get down to the beach and people are immediately, Harper, those are also, both of those, in fact, I got both of them to add bike rest stops to those, Harper. So, I mean, any kind of...
But can you get a kayak down at Harper?
Yes, sure you can.
You can.
It's on the beach.
Well, I understand that, but is there a designated place for kayak?
You know, they're not unless somebody's put them there. And that, Harper's is part of the county, and it's also Port of Bremerton jurisdiction. And, you know, I think that a lot of people just aren't thinking. We've told when you bring it to their attention, like this would be a great place, so we have a water trail sign that like is now people are adding to those locations. So, oh yeah, it's kayaking. Manchester's done a fabulous job. They've added a whole new thing with bioswale gardens and really turning that place. And a lot of kayakers kayak there to go to Blake Island.
Yes.
Right.
The challenge we have there is we have so many boaters there
Yes.
that they're just discouraging kayakers to go there.
Yeah, I know.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
I live next door to what they call the Manchester property where
Yeah.
the storm
Mhm.
drain is.
Right.
And they're kind of, at first, we thought there would be a trail, a walking trail down to the water. But
Uh-huh.
it's pretty rough to get down there.
Well, and that's the thing, it's a little bit more experienced kayakers, you know, and so that's one reason I think cycling is really good for Port Orchard, because North has all these bays. You got Apple Tree Cove, Liberty Bay, Keyport, you know, all of those where you don't have the currents and everything. You folks are pretty much out in the open water,
Well,
which,
we have Yukon,
Little Clam Bay.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Yukon Harbor is
Yes.
a great place.
Yes, absolutely. But that's where we really need your help and say, hey, listen, we've got these great places. And I think once we recognize that the region can be this, and is starting to become this fabulous destination for outdoor recreation, and see that as part of your identity, then you can start going, well, wait a minute, we got a lot of stuff on the shelf.
Yeah.
So, what is the vacancy rate typically here in Kitsap County as far as the rooms are concerned?
So historically, like 50%. And one of the reasons, that's a great question, thank you, Matt, is that because, and I was really surprised to hear this from the hotels, they don't have any idea what the military or Navy or Defense is going to do with regard. I mean, they may say, hey, we're having a ship come in, or we're going to do this. And so they're always trying to be prepared to be available to have that flux. So it's really been challenging for them because they know that their per diem's lower, and there's not the uncertainty of, well, we might be 50%, but because they've now switched over and are really targeting leisure travel, it has evened out their money. And Port Orchard, Terry was told me she was at 89% in September, which is unheard of.
She's which?
Apollo Inn.
Oh.
Which that's just a little inn, but a 13% increase. And then Stephen Gear told me that they're all very guarded about what they say, but that he's been up to 80. He was at 85% during the summer. So while so what they're seeing is that they're able to offer the rooms at a higher rate to so the number of rooms, even if they're down a little bit on occupancy, the increase is so significant for the per room rate that they're getting, that they're having.
So from a planning standpoint, for the city of Port Orchard, if we can extrapolate these
Right.
travel impact numbers back down to the city, it would appear as though just slightly over 10% of the tourism dollars generated in the county, ergo hopefully this city kinda, comes from lodging.
Yeah.
So, and given the fact that we've got 130 oddish beds in South Kitsap, it would be interesting to see, what their vacancy
Well,
rates are.
exactly. I mean, that's where I talk with Jan. I'm able to get that data from my folks' leisure, and
Right.
yeah.
But given that, I mean, if we were to look at what the city of Port Orchard should focus on, is it, and for that matter, even the counties, granted, LTAC is generated as a result of lodging.
Right.
And so, but I mean, there aren't very many other industries that use the taxes that they generate to pay for
Right.
themselves, it's kind of self-serving. To focus on, food service, is almost over a third
Yeah.
of the income that's generated as a result of visitors.
Yeah.
The shopping is 20-ish%, when you add them all up, retail sales is, so, so should the focus be on, if beds are being filled, I mean, how much influence can we have in increasing that $39.2 million to $100 million? It'll never be that high. Should the focus be more on, like you said, what there is to do here versus where there is to stay here? And then from
Yes.
Oh, absolutely,
Yes.
because for one thing, I think that being in sales and in marketing, but sales first, is you have to generate demand.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you want the
Right.
hotels to, be so packed that we need another hotel.
And that's where when you sit through the county LPAC meetings, it's all hoteliers saying, how can you put more heads in my beds? And, really that only generates 10%, where if we could be bringing more people in, it would naturally flow, that perhaps more people would be staying in town.
Well, I think that for Matt, for mine and your purposes, since we don't get grants from the state, economic development people, that our primary source of revenue to do what we need to do is from LTAC. So I think that you have to definitely say whatever marketing strategies we're doing, is that going to fill up the hotels? Ideally, you want the hotels to be at capacity, and because then that generates more money for us to work with. What I would say, though, is I think where the cities can play a role is recognizing what their economic assets are. I think so much of our focus, and KidSAP has always been on defense, military, everything else. But the reality is, Port Orchard is, you guys are Sausalito, in infancy. That huge, you've got a marina, you've got a waterfront, you've got trails. Your shoreline is right on, your road is right on the shore. All the way around. That to me, I grew up on Alki Beach when there was nothing in a brownstone. And you look at Alki Beach now, it's nuts, with the condos and apartments, and everybody loves it. There is so much potential for, your area, and then you've got the foot ferry, but then, that can be people living over here taking the foot ferry to get on the ferry to go to Seattle to work. So, again, it's, what kind of a city do you want to be? What do you want to have your focus? My recommendation is, it's outdoor recreation and nature and beaches, and especially if you're looking across, a lot of times.
Golf courses,
And golf courses, everything, absolutely, and boating. I think that a lot of times what we found, I had an ad agency in Seattle, and we get these clients that would come in, and we just stare at them because they want to go to Portland, and we go, why? You're already here. Why don't we saturate this market first, and then we can go to Portland? And I think a lot of times, and that's why our philosophy has been really about marketing our area. I don't need to go to Ohio. I don't need to go to Colorado. I don't even need to go to Oregon. I have such a huge market right across in Bellevue, Seattle, Snohomish, Tacoma, to get people to come over here and spend the night. And even Olympic Peninsula, let's saturate that market first. And once those people, and again, I think we're also trying to educate our hoteliers, our restaurants, how important customer service is. When you're dealing with out-of-town people, you really have to be on your game. You have to be ready for prime time. Another area that I think would be really great for Port Orchard, and to think about as far as economic development, but also permitting and things, you folks are an absolute perfect location for corporate retreats. Absolutely. In fact, we put in, for a week, this is a couple years ago, a group of healthcare professionals from Chicago that took over Cedar Cove. I think it was like 13 of them from Chicago, because they had meetings in Seattle at the University of Washington and didn't want to stay in Seattle because they wanted to have it be a retreat, and so they took over Cedar Cove Inn, and they just loved it. And we helped hook them up with dinner at the bistro and a tour of Carter's Chocolates. that's another really great area for you folks to be considering. So if you're doing the development of any kind of a community center, if you're looking at what to do with the Myrie building, you know, that could be, the upper level of that could be a fabulous meeting space, you know, for corporate retreats. I mean, I would encourage you to think outside the box on some of those kind of things. You have retail below and catering businesses and everything, and a really great meeting space and venue up above. So,
Do we have any more questions for that?
I just have a quick question, which is, you were talking about Airbnb on Bainbridge Island. The Airbnb rates, they also contribute to lodging.
oh, absolutely.
Great, okay.
Yeah, they do VRBOs. In fact, we got a ruling from that from the county. So VRBOs, which are vacation rentals, you know, they're a huge opportunity for corporate retreats, but at this time, they don't pay into lodging tax. Bainbridge Island is trying apparently to do something with an assessment, but Airbnb do. The thing with Airbnb is a little challenging is that they are very, very, the Airbnb people don't even want us to advertise them really, because it's all sort of a one-on-one thing, and it's, you know, but those are certainly, with regular B&Bs, you know, offers a huge opportunity, I think, there for corporate retreats. So anyway, I hope that's been helpful.
I just wanted to thank you so much for all this data. That was really interesting to read all the data that
Oh,
you put together.
great.
Thank you.
Well,
A lot of work.
Oh, thank you. Well, you know, I think a lot of it is, you know, we've never made a presentation at KETA. If you have any influence on that, we're happy to do that. And I think a lot of it's just because, you know, historically, and I've lived here 35 years, so I know all about that, is that you just, you know, it's been defense and military, but my thought is we could walk and chew gum at the same time. And it does provide some diversification. And the other thing, it definitely helps small businesses. I mean, tourism, and especially a lot of them are women-owned businesses and family-owned businesses. Tourism really has an opportunity to help those businesses become successful and generate revenue. So that's why we think it's really important. So thank you so much
Thank you, Patty.
for
We
the
really
opportunity.
appreciate you.
I'm going to leave your, thank you. I'm going to leave these packets with you, and then if you have any extras that you don't need, you let me know. But it was nice, and you know, if you decide to do that Hogfest again, you just let me know. Oh, great. Okay, cool. Sure. Oh, right, Brumsicle, Mr. Brumsicle, sure, absolutely. Yeah, definitely, because you can work with him on non-motorized, that'd be great. So, thank you, and it was a pleasure meeting all of you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So anyway, thank you, Matt. So I have more of those copies that I can get you, so you can share that with your folks. But anyway, thank you
You guys
so
make
much.
sure
It
to
was
take
a
donuts.
success. So they were very excited. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Patty. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need
Can't hardly even talk about it.
Yeah, it's just a volunteer, they're gonna go.
Gotcha.
Who would be the first one? It's just an hour.
A lot of it is, they take into consideration traffic. And so, I mean, they came up bigly, and, you know, they came down lower. If they could figure out how to get the miles out.
And they're gonna
Get
come
it
with
a little bit neater. Because, you know, having gone through Hallsville, I'm looking at their
Day job.
Yeah, it's just we come down here and it's